I'm joined now by a man who's managed to marry his passions as an author, educator, entertainer, and rap performer. Vincent Taylor, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So, why are you so passionate about education? You're an educator, but you really bring a special verve to what you do.
I think it's very important simply because as a teacher, students are going through our classroom. They're passing us, and we have an opportunity to impact them in ways that we don't even realize, that they definitely don't realize. So it's very important that they are not only learning what we're teaching, but they are falling in love with what we're facilitating to them.
How did you come to education yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background.
So it's funny because I did not initially plan to be a teacher. I had a awesome college counselor, and we had a great rapport with one another. And I said, "Hey, Dr. Badger, how can I take your job?" And he said, "You want my job?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right, come to my office." He said, "Well, first of all, Vincent, if you want to be a college counselor, you first need to have that prerequisite of being a teacher." I said, "Okay, so that's what I need to do, teach." Well, I went to University of North Florida, got my bachelor's in elementary ed, became a teacher, and the rest is history. 28 years later, I'm still in the classroom, a teacher, and I love it.
Elementary education primarily,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
And so that is a unique group of kids to connect with. You do a lot of uh, engagement with them on a musical level. Talk about
Yeah.
that, how you bring that into the classroom and how you use that as a tool.
Okay, well, I learned a long time ago that, to be an effective teacher, there's a lot of variables that's necessary, but one especially is being a culturally responsive teacher. And that's just looking at your classroom, looking at the audience and deciding, okay, who are they? What do they love? And bring that. And a lot of my students were in love with hip hop. And so was I. So I said, okay, well, let me take something that I'm very passionate about and let me create some educational songs. So I looked at the reading standards and I went to the recording studio, recorded 10 songs about reading strategies, and I shared it with my students and they loved it. They loved it.
We actually have some of a performance that you did with a character that you've created. And we'll talk about him in a minute, named Cornbread, and,
Yes.
and some students.
Okay.
We may or may not have that sound. We'll come back to it in just a minute. I think we'll be able to cue it up in a second. But tell us, first of all, who is Cornbread? Because he actually performs alongside you.
Yes, yes. So first of all, I was honored to be one of the special guests at the mayor's reading celebration we just had about 2 weeks ago, and Cornbread was there. Cornbread is just a character that, first of all, it chronicles the life of Isaiah Walker, aka Cornbread, and it follows him through two different settings: first at home and at school, so that the students can definitely relate to him. So I wanted to find a character that was very relatable and someone yeah, a character that they could get excited about.
And
Yeah.
so he is kind of young. He's very engaging. He
Yes.
is performs
Yes.
alongside you.
Yes. He's a fourth grader in the book, but when we do presentations all over the country, he comes out as this 6, 7 foot tall character that gets the students excited. So I started off with, okay, let's get excited about main idea, context clues, and I have music that goes along with it. And I do that for the first set, and then Cornbread comes out and steals the show.
The math detective.
Yes, yes. So, and that's new now. The math detective is the math part that connects Cornbread to education.
I gotcha.
Yes.
And so a little bit about your own interests. I mean, you had a desire to do music. You were kind of an aspiring rap performer yourself.
Yeah. Oh man, you went way back. So for those of you who don't know, I was once known as Prince Vince.
Prince
Okay.
Vince?
Sort of stole that from Fresh Prince. So, Prince Vince. Yeah. So I've been going to the studio for years. I love music. And I don't just love, first of all, I'm a writer, so I write the lyrics. But when I analyze songs, I like to look at all the different variables. So I'm not only looking at the lyrics, I'm listening to the track, I'm listening to the background vocals, I'm listening to the ad libs, and then I'm listening for that one thing that you can't even put your finger on it, but it illuminates the song. It makes it not a 9, but a 10. So we have this thing. My daughters and my wife will play a song, and we rate it,
Uh-huh.
and it's just something fun that we do with one another.
So you're an author of several books. I mean, there's the Cornbread series. Tell us how many books you've published, and then I want to talk about the one that you brought with you.
Okay, so I have a total of 11 books. 11 books, six in the Cornbread series. The very first book that I was telling you about, that's rhythmic reading. I have a poetry book. And the one that I have in front of me now, this is where it all started. With me, this is a book that I wrote for teachers called If Instruction Isn't Engaging, I Quit. So let me break this down. First of all, when I told my mom the title of my book, she was like, "Oh, sweetie, I don't think you should name it that. You don't want the kids to quit." I said, "No, Mom, it's not that. I'm literally putting pressure on myself as a teacher, saying that we must bring whatever we need to bring to that classroom with instruction to ensure that our 12th graders are not dropping out of school. Our first and second graders are not being totally disengaged when we're teaching." So I just go over different strategies, 10 strategies where teachers can find ways to engage their students.
So run us through some of those because I know that, I mean, there's a lot of educators out there. It's mid-year. Some teachers are working in really difficult environments, and it is
Mhm.
hard to stay motivated and
Yes.
enthused.
Okay. Well, one that I mentioned earlier, just being a culturally responsive teacher. You can't just look at a curriculum and feel like, "Oh, okay, let me just teach this standard. Let me teach this benchmark." No. You have to look and see who's in front of you, see what they love, and cater your instruction around them. And no textbook is built that way. So you can only see a standard, but then you have to modify how you're going to teach this lesson to address the students in front of you. The second one, and I would say this is probably, I'm going to get to that one last. The next one
Mm.
is teacher enthusiasm. You can't expect for a student to be excited about your lesson. Yes, you still stayed up all weekend, hours trying to put this masterpiece lesson together, but you can't expect for a student to get excited about it if you yourself is not excited about it. So when I go into a classroom, it's performance time. I want you to go crazy. Matter of fact, when I finish teaching that lesson, I want to hear that sigh. Do we have to leave? That means I've done something with education. But the most important way I feel that we can engage students is building a rapport. When you have a relationship with your students, they will not only do your work, but they will work hard for you. And I've found so much success just by developing a rapport with my students.
We're talking to Vincent Taylor, educator, author, and creator of the Cornbread series, and real inspiration for teachers. If you have a question for him, you can give us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can message us on Facebook and Instagram and tag us on X at FCC On Air. Vincent, I know you've been doing other kinds of outreach recently with the mayor's literacy initiative.
Yes.
So she got involved, you involved with that, I think largely because you just are such a inspiring persona when you go into a room.
Right. I mean, I think what the mayor realizes, just as I said earlier, it's not just about, okay, we have to pick up this book and read. She wanted to add an element to the opening of this event to let students see, okay, how can we get them excited about reading? You know, I did a presentation and someone said, well, before the presentation, they said, well, what book are you going to read at your presentation? I said, well, I'm not going to read a book. I'm going to tell you about the book, and we're going to talk about how this could be exciting to get them excited about picking up any book, because Cornbread is not just the best book in the world or any book that I write. All books are great. So we, as the person who's standing in front of our audience, have to find a way to get our audience excited about it. So that's what I did, and I think that's why I was there.
And there are some real serious literacy challenges in Jacksonville, part of what the mayor's trying to address.
Yes.
Is it is Are there any special techniques for reaching kids who haven't been raised around books, who maybe have very minimal skills, in order to get them feeling confident enough and feeling like capable enough to take on the task of learning to read or learning to read better?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things would be finding literature that they enjoy, first of all. You know, when they go to school, they may not have as many choices, but when they're at home, this is where the parent is very instrumental, getting that student that book that they love. If it's comic books, whatever it is,
Hmm.
just get them reading and excited about that. Because what happens is they are able to now practice their fluency, reading with expression. They're also exposed to a lot of vocabulary. So it's helping them in ways that they or their parents may not even realize because they're reading what they want to read. So when they go to school, it transfers over to I can read whatever the teacher puts in front of me, and I can pull out the main idea. I can use context clues to figure out this other word. Matter of fact, I probably know the word because I've read that particular word in the books that I enjoy at home.
Hmm. If somebody wants to get in touch with your resources, an educator or a parent, or someone who's just interested in knowing a little bit more about you and the books that you've written, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
My website is vincenttaylor.com. But social media, all my social media is Vince the Writer. Vince the Writer.
Okay. And I don't think we're going to be able to play the little sample of the performance. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No
It
problem.
looks
No
like the
problem.
file that I pulled is not working, but people definitely should Google Vincent Taylor and find him on Facebook because they're really charming performances and
Thank
so fun to
you.
watch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you fully abandoned your aspirations of becoming a professional rapper? Or is that something in the
Yes, that's
past?
gone. That's gone. So I do it through education, in the classroom. That part is gone.
No more Prince Vince?
No, I listen to some of the Prince Vince stuff, but no, we won't bring him out
And do you play it for your kids?
all the time.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
like it? They say,
Matter of fact, I just played a song yesterday for my daughter, and she was like, "Wow, this needs to be on the radio right now." But that was then, and it was a lot of fun. But now I have a different goal. I have a different goal, and I'm trying to reach students who are, reluctant readers and who's just not excited about instruction. And I think I can better reach them through music in the classroom now.
well, I'm sorry that it wasn't featured on the radio today because it was my intention. But Vince Taylor, thank you so much for joining us, and for all the work that you do in the community, for helping elevate the cause of education and reaching kids.
You are welcome. It was my pleasure being here.
And we will have a link to that performance in our show summary at wjct.org. So
Awesome.